Hi, my name is Shaheen Bhatt, and today I'm at Health Shots discussing the 5 most important lessons I've learned through my journey with depression. So I've dealt with depression since I was about 12 years old, which is pretty much my entire adult life at this point. And for me, the journey was a very up and down journey, and that's only because I didn't really know very much about depression. When I started dealing with it, I didn't know what it was. It took me more than 5 years to actually go to therapy to finally understand what I was going through. And the thing that I realized along that journey was, if I had known more, if I was educated, if there was more information out there, I would have gotten help a lot sooner. As a result of that, I would have started dealing with what I was dealing with a lot sooner. And what I've realized as well is that, this is pretty much one of the most common things that we deal with, especially now through the pandemic. More people are dealing with mental health. And I think more now than ever, it's very crucial that we actually have these conversations, because with mental health, it's the kind of thing that, there is a solution. And you just have to actually start talking about it to be able to find that solution. So, it's more important now than it ever has been to actually start talking about mental health. So the number one lesson that I've learned dealing with depression is that we all have the same fears, but for some reason we think that they're all unique to us. While depression is different for everybody because our life experiences are different, I think at the core of it, we all pretty much deal with the same fears and the same insecurities. The second lesson that I've learned along my journey is the fact that depression and mental illnesses are things that occur with women specifically, almost a double the rate than men. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that men aren't dealing with depression and mental illness too. With women, it's very clear that, there's a lot of experiences women go through that are unique to us, especially things, hormonal changes, menstruation, childbirth, menopause. All these things contribute to us dealing a lot more with mental illness. And at the same time, women, we're in a situation where we tend to be socially and economically a lot more disenfranchised than men. All of these things, contribute to making mental illness very often much higher in women. But at the same time, men deal with this too. And there's a lot of social stigma, specifically for men around mental illness. So, while women deal with a lot that is unique to us, this is still something that, men and women experience pretty much at the same rate. The third lesson that I've learned along my journey is the fact that shame around our mental health and shame around who we are is an epidemic. We've all been taught over generations that it is important for us to always be okay, that we should go through, tough things that we're going through sort of in secret behind closed doors. And when you are taught lessons like that, it teaches you that how you feel is not okay. And that creates a lot of shame. And shame is sort of a breeding ground for every negative feeling in the book. That's pretty much where most of this stuff really begins. So once again, the only real way to tackle shame is to normalize things like mental health, normalize depression. And the way to do that is to consistently talk about it. The fourth lesson I've learned along my journey is that the most important thing in beginning healing from any kind of mental health issue, depression, anxiety, whatever it is acceptance. You can't go about fixing a problem if you don't admit that there is something that needs fixing. So the step number one is to accept that you're going through something that's rough. You're going through something that might be a little out of the ordinary. And that's when you can actually go about dealing with it. That's when you can start learning more about what you're going through. That's when you can, for me personally, that's acceptance was the biggest thing, because it was the thing that I stopped hiding. I stopped wasting energy on pretending to be okay. And when I stopped wasting energy on that, I could spend that energy looking after myself. So the number one sort of thing that helped me, I would say, was acceptance. So the fifth lesson that I've learned on my journey is that there is no finish line. There is no holy grail emotional state to get to. For some reason, we all believe that there is some perfect state of emotional well-being that we by ourselves are not able to get to, and there's something wrong with us because we, for some reason, are the only ones who are not able to be happy. Your emotional state is sort of an alive, like, thing that's full of vitality. The way we feel changes from a minute to minute basis. Sometimes you'll wake up in the morning feeling one way, you'll start your afternoon feeling a completely different way, and you'll go to bed feeling a completely different way, and that's normal. Even though I don't like using the word normal, I think if there's anything that's normal is that constant state of change and that impermanence of how you feel on a daily basis. The thing with suicide is that every single life that we lose to suicide is an absolute tragedy, because suicide is 100% preventable. It's just a fact that we need to learn how to identify people who are at risk for suicide. We have to learn how to then deal with it once we do identify that. So there was a very interesting sort of method that I learned, which is keeping in mind something called WAIT, WAIT. The W stands for watch out for signs and symptoms. So observe loved ones, observe people around you, watch out, learn about the signs and symptoms of suicide first and foremost, and watch out for those signs. The A stands for ask. So ask somebody if they're experiencing any suicidal feelings or suicidal thoughts. The I stands for it will pass. Suicide is a very, temporary decision made in the face of a very final decision made in the face of a very temporary problem. So remind people that it will pass. And the T stands for talk about it. Encourage people who are dealing with these things to talk about it as much as possible. So suicide is 100% preventable. All we need to really do is know that, especially in the face of now, the pandemic, suicide rates have increased. We are, I think, in the face of going to be experiencing a massive mental health crisis over the next 5 years or 10 years or however long it is. So again, now more than ever, I think it's important for us to be very well aware of the signs of depression and of the signs of, somebody who is at higher risk for suicide. For more health related content, please like, share, and subscribe to Health Shots.